All right. Welcome, everyone. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll just reverse introduction order here and have Joanie go last unless she jumps on here in a second. That said, I'll go ahead and kick off. Thanks for everyone who have joined us. Kendra, it's great to see you. Irene, Chris, Heather, thank you, everyone. Again, I'm Leslie Vickrey, the founder and CEO of Clear Edge Marketing. I'm also the co-founder of ARA, which is an organization dedicated to attracting, retaining, and advancing women in technology. I have the distinguished honor of representing and moderating this discussion today on engineering a best-in-class and on-brand customer experience. Hey, Jonathan Katz, thanks for the shout out. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout. So any questions, if you want to drop it in there, feel free to do so. Also, I can simply do that at the end. We have some time blocked for that as well. Thank you to the World Staffing Summit for putting together this important event. And thank you to the panelists who are joining us here today. I read the bios I had and they don't do justice for your true background. So I'm going to ask each one of our panelists to go ahead and introduce yourselves. And we'll go ahead, Christina, and I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm Christina Bottis. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Medix. We are one of the nation's largest healthcare, life sciences, technology, and engineering staffing agencies. And I've been in B2B marketing for 20 years. It's crazy to say. And I'm just excited to have our discussion today.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. All right, Adam, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Adam Blabtroy. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at both ASGN and Creative Circle. I've been the Chief Marketing Officer at Creative Circle for about 10 years and following the acquisition at ASGN for about 7. Been in the marketing world for a very long time, B2B, B2C, and a little entrepreneurial background as well. So I'm looking forward to the conversation today. Excellent.
Thank you, Adam. All right, it looks like we're still waiting for our third panelist, Joanie Bily, to join us. So I'll go ahead and kind of kick things off, and then we'll pause and allow Joanie to introduce herself. Actually, I'll go ahead and do a quick Joanie introduction so we can jump into the content. Joanie is the president of Remex, and she's the chief workforce analyst for EmployBridge. And Remex is the professional staffing division of EmployBridge, which is recognized by SIA as America's largest industrial staffing firm. The company puts more than 450,000 temporary associates to work annually across a network of 446 offices in 48 states. A quick plug for Joanie. She and I are co-authors of a book called Together We Rise with 15 total women from the staffing industry. I saw Kendra, Erica, and maybe a couple of others who have joined. Thank you. But I wanted to share that she's actually launching a new book that's coming out in March, and it is called Dive in Deep, D.E.P. period. So we'll allow her to share a little bit more about that later, but super excited for you, Joanie, and I can't wait to order your new book. So again, I am thrilled to be here joined by these 3 brilliant business leaders. And what I love about their backgrounds is that they all really do bring deep expertise on both the business and marketing side of the house and understand the importance and impact that marketing can have. So I'm excited to dive deep into customer experience and the experience they've had for years. And this topic, one could argue that the customer experience, it's really never been more important. I think, in fact, I read a Forrester article recently that stated 2023, so where we are today, it'll be a reckoning for customer experience programs. Hey, Joanie, welcome. As companies struggle to focus on customers while navigating a potentially turbulent economy. I was catching up with someone this morning and we were just talking about the economy and how companies are doing, and it's really all over the board. So it does feel a little turbulent in that sense that it's different for everyone. Some are thriving and some are just trying to figure out what's happening. That said, consumer behavior, it's constantly evolving and something that all of us as marketers, we really need to have our pulse on at the time. And why? It's because all touch points aren't created equal and some will evolve. So if you just consider the evolution of social media, you've got Facebook, then YouTube, TikTok, all of the above. My son is 6. He thinks he's going to be a YouTube star already. The evolution of these things have really increased. He's up to 10, by the way, subscribers. He says he needs 5 million to be famous. All right. So today we are going to dig into what really makes a great customer and brand experience in the eyes of the consumers, clients, and candidates. Again, within our industry, clients are multiple roles within a company and how we drive revenue. So we'll talk about the techniques that brands use and really look at how they build those long-term relationships. So there's plenty to cover here today. So I'm going to ask actually all of you to start the same question, and then we're going to build into individual questions for you each. So we know today that the majority of CX teams, so customer experience 4 out of 5, they lack crucial skills in the inclusive experience, design thinking, survey design, data literacy. And Adam, one of my favorite things about your background, which we'll talk about later, is storytelling, journey mapping to the customer, analytics. There's so many things that are important. And those differentiators really play into so much when it comes to staffing. So my question for you all is, in your opinion, what does an exceptional brand do to ensure consistent and powerful brand engagement throughout the customer experience? And what is one company doing out there in any industry, it could be ours or another, that you would say is doing it right? Joanie, I'm going to start with you. Again, welcome. We did read your bio. We shared information about your new book coming out. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I'm excited to learn from you and your experience when it comes to branding. So tell us, what does an exceptional brand do to ensure consistent and powerful brand engagement?
Well, thank you, Leslie. Thanks for having me. I could hear you the whole time. Sorry.
Oh, good.
Technical issue on my side, but I'm glad
no
to
worries.
be here. So, yeah, it's branding, and obviously the world we live in today with social media has just completely changed, the way that brands are built and influenced and how we create content. I was thinking of, different examples of brands, even outside the industry to start with. And one brand that I just have been super impressed with is Target. I think of Target, how, I'm not talking like, the Four Seasons or Nordstrom or this high-end brand, but Target has done such an incredible job really positioning themselves as a great retailer, right, for everyone, and they've done an incredible job of connecting with influencers. They leverage Instagram. I mean, just all the different channels of what they have done over the years is to impress me. So Target is one that I think has really gotten it right and is leveraging all the different channels to continue to build their brand. When I think of our industry, I'm going to bring up actually a company that EmployBridge just acquired, and that is Blue Crew. Mm-hmm. Blue Crew has really developed kind of a digital platform that is creating this incredible, easy experience for the worker to sign up easy, to build a profile, to just build that profile one time. They can go in, they can change their preferences. And I think that's where our industry does need to go. We need to make it easier for candidates to sign up with us, to work with us, to decide when they want to work, what's going to be the pay, the locations, the types of jobs. And I will say, I think our industry as a whole has kind of been in really creating those incredible user experiences. And we do need, as an industry, to kind of improve that. So I'll kick it off with that and then turn it back to you.
Oh, thank you, Joanie. And I think you're right in the sense that whenever we talk to candidates oftentimes or clients, who they are often is who they worked with and not necessarily the brand. And it's proven that there's only, I think the top 3 to 5 to 10 brands within our industry are super well known. And I have to tell you, from a channel standpoint, Target, again, I promise I'm not going to bring up my son the entire time on this, but we were skiing. For those of you who don't know, I moved from Chicago to Breckenridge, Colorado, and we were skiing this weekend. And on the chairlift, were the Target symbols. And we were getting on, and he's only 6. He was like, "Oh, Target's advertising on this." I'm like, "Wow, they're even on the seats of chairlifts now. So, there are channels that we don't even think about, but it's a memorable brand and experience. It's just that logo by memory people can remember regardless of the age. So you're right, it is a brand for everyone. Adam, that said, you have such a strong consumer marketing background, I think more so than anyone I've met in our industry when it comes to the uniqueness of your background and experience. How do you feel in our industry in particular, your opinion on an exceptional brand? How do we ensure it is consistent and powerful with that brand engagement? Obviously, Target is on the consumer side. What can we do to make ourselves memorable and so forth too? So I'm curious to get your thoughts on powerful brand engagement.
Great question. And Joanie, the Target folks, if we had $1 billion to spend in general media, our bullseye or the Nike Swish or the Coke Wave would be quite commonplace.
Valid.
I think the key is to start at the beginning, for me at least, which is that your audience, us, we're all emotional human beings. And while technology has moved us through life to a small screen that's a cell phone, a laptop, iPad, our triggers, the way that we react to stimuli in the environment around us hasn't changed. So we were all young once, some of us are still young, and you go to a grocery store and things are kid eye height or candies at the checkout counter. Okay, so the science of in-store retail merchandising really became just that. The emotional triggers of bright and shiny and flavorful and all of these things, they've just migrated to a two-dimensional environment and a small screen. So the first thing is your audience has emotions, they respond to stimuli, and we need to treat them with both respect and kindness. And those are the two things that will give us early stage differentiation. We'll talk a little later today about technologies and data and ways we can capture it. But I think the key thing is to understand that you want to present your brand true to your culture with a respect for your audience.
Thank you, Adam. I agree. If you can just lead with respect and kindness, if we all could, the impact that it would make. And very valid point on the budget front. In our industry, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, we've been known not to invest as much, even just percentage of revenue wise, to other industries as well. So valid point there. Christina, I'd love to hear from you and your thoughts on an exceptional brand and how we consider that consistent and powerful brand engagement across the customer journey.
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny about the discussion around customer experience is the clue is in the name, right? It needs to start with the customer. And I think when you compare the disciplines of B2C with B2B, what they do much better than we have historically is have an intimate, down to the emotion, as Adam alluded to, of what triggers their customer, what is their journey, how are they going about making a decision, and which channels are they using. So understanding how to engineer that experience needs to start with what are the problems that they're having? What are their challenges? How can we solve them? What questions can we answer before they even have to reach out to ask? And, as we have multiple generations and different levels of digital aptitude, right? We talk a lot about digital, but there's still a contingent of folks that are really not comfortable with engaging totally on that platform. We have to meet them where they are, right? In the world of, TikTok and YouTube and every channel popping up overnight, the question always has to go back to, is your audience there? Do they want to engage with your brand here? Is that the kind of experience they want to have there? Do they want to fill out forms on TikTok? Is it more of an experiential space? So really getting an intimate understanding of your customer, their emotional triggers, their buying behaviors, and then wrapping that all around, and then, scaling and being consistent with that messaging is absolutely critical to creating what is a cohesive ecosystem.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Christina. People often want to go right to Instagram or go right to a channel without taking that upfront time to think about their buyer personas and personas in general. And I love what you said. This is one of my favorite things, is just meet them where they are. Don't try to go where they aren't. You're not going to see the results for it. Unfortunately, they get pulled or lured in that direction sometimes because of consumer behavior, but we really need to focus on knowing your audience. So thank you for kicking that off. Great insights, everyone. As we start to kind of narrow our focus and look at this industry, the talent industry, I'd really love to dive into the customer experience across the board. We know there's two critical customers to consider: our clients and our talent, whether that be the candidates we place on client site or the employees we hire into our company. They are both essential consumers, the client and the candidate, of our model. And they really require different types of support and engagement throughout their journeys. Joanie, I'm going to dig into this with you because you really are a staffing industry brand builder. And for those of you who don't know, you've really built your brand, the Duchess of Labor, as it is coined, and have literally become known as the person to turn to for all things workforce related to data, and are on the news and regularly sharing your opinion. So I'd love to hear from you specifically what the pillars are of an extraordinary customer experience in the staffing industry. And let's talk a little bit about both clients and candidates.
Sure. Years ago, I did start to, speak about employment trends and the labor market. And because of that, I guess I became a little bit of, a data geek. I never, intended or really set out. It just kind of evolved and happened that I needed to constantly research what was happening in the labor market, because I had opportunities with my customers, certainly with media, to talk about what's happening in the employment market. And that has really evolved over, the last 10 or so years. But I can tell you that at Remex, the business that I lead for EmployBridge, we really tailor our solutions to our customers, leading with research, insights, data, trends. EmployBridge overall is leading with the voice of the American Worker Survey. We used to call it the voice of the blue collar. We just have kind of updated that. And I believe that in this industry, our customers are looking to us to say, what are the trends? What's happening? What do these want today? What's going to retain them? It's not just about wages. It could be about flexibility or benefits or time off, in a number of things that they'll be looking for. Certainly in the blue collar space, it's a little bit more of the shifts. So I think understanding both our candidates, our temporary associates, really surveying, get the pulse of what's important to them, and then sharing that data with our customers so that they're positioned to attract and retain, the workers in their environment. So both are so connected, but you're right, Leslie, they're totally two different customers. At EmployBridge, I'd like to think it's even three different customers. We have our clients, we have our temporary associates, and then we also have our internal colleagues. And all three are customers that we are focused on surveying and making sure that we are delivering the right solutions to attract and retain talent in every regard.
Oh, thank you, Joanie. I appreciate that insight. And actually, there was a question in the chat, if anyone else would like to answer that, about how you identify that. You mentioned surveying, Joanie. I know we do a lot of qualitative research to understand the emotional decisions behind each of the audiences. Who are they learning from? Where are they getting their information? Really taking the time not to just rely on technology. Of course, we can get some great information from technology and research, but getting under the covers of that kind of deep diving. So thank you. Adam, the next question's for you. I know we come across all the time in our business, working with people and businesses in HR tech, something that I tend to call the sea of sameness. And I mentioned earlier that staffing firms tend to have similar tech stacks, similar programs for assessing diverse talent or upskilling candidates, and similar, quite frankly, brand pillars, some of which may sound familiar here: people first, people centric, strong commitment to excellence, being willing to go the extra mile, having a commitment to building relationships, all of those things are innately extraordinarily important, but differentiation matters. Adam, I mentioned earlier the storytelling background. What people may not understand about your background is you actually worked side by side with Jim Henson and Stan Lee, two incredible, arguably some of the world's most fascinating storytellers. You kind of cut your teeth there and bring that to this industry. That is worth an entire conversation in and of itself. That said, where do you think is the biggest opportunity out there for staffing companies in finding a sweet spot that truly differentiates them in that sea of sameness and helps them create a more compelling customer experience across their customer base?
Great question. I think it really starts at the very beginning and identifying your three audiences. And we'll start with candidates first, because arguably that's where we as an industry do the poorest job. And the first thing that I would encourage everyone to do is apply to a job on your site. Go through the journey yourself. And by a show of hands, I can promise you 90+% of the people that are listening to this have either never applied to a job on their site or haven't applied in the last 6 months. Start the journey as a candidate. When you go looking for a job, you are at your most emotionally vulnerable point. So again, going back to treating them with respect and kindness, if you think about the most powerful form of advertising is referral, right? You don't eat, you don't watch, you don't listen, you don't drive, you don't wear without being referred to a brand or a product. The better we treat our candidates in the application process, the more likely they are to refer to us, even if we didn't find them the job. Being honest, being direct. So that's the first piece. There's tons of technology that can take you through the behaviors of working online, whether it's Hotjar or heat mapping or all the different products you can get within the Google Analytics suite. The capacity to understand their journey and to interpret it is great, but it's really, again, putting yourself in their position. On the other side, if you're a client, most of the time a client does not know what they want. They think they know what they want. So the first process is helping them distill down need and want and to separate the two so that they're better informed by the time they come in contact with you. And then the third piece, which are other teammates that we want to come join us, it's really finding a way to show the culture of the company that you work for, again, in an authentic and honest way.
Thank you. And we're going to switch gears to culture here, and Christina, a topic for you. So perfect segue, Adam. That said, even I would argue, try searching keywords that are relevant to your positions and see if you even come up in search or SEO. And if you do, what does come up? How are you described in those tags on Google or other platforms and so forth? And then also when you're looking at Glassdoor, don't just look at the rating, look at what people are saying. What you may find out about your brand reputation is that perhaps you need more training at the recruiter level, perhaps the onboarding isn't as strong, or there's something broken in the overall process. So to Adam's point, it's that whole journey from the time they find your company online to the time they apply for a job, to the time they talk to someone within the company, to the time they're placed, to the time they're redeployed. Every stage of that journey really needs to be looked at. And that goes the same across every person, if it's an employee and a candidate or a client. So thank you, Adam. Excellent insights. And culture is marketing. And another issue I really want to dig into is just that culture. The company culture and the company brand together, if you tap into that, really the beliefs of the values of the customers to build even deeper, those more lasting connections, Christina, where you can retain a customer for years and you can actually enjoy going deeper and penetrating within that account. It's interesting when you think of different consumer brands. So let's talk about Apple for a minute. Apple customers, they already believe that Apple will always release the most innovative new products. Everyone knows that Disneyland is the happiest place on earth. Okay, I have not been yet with my son, so I've heard a debate on that. However, Disney's products do exist to make you happy. Nike is a brand we all know. Customers believe that Nike is doing everything they can to help each athlete release their true potential. I like to think when I'm wearing Nike shoes, I'm actually performing really well. It's just innate in the brand. These companies, through the power of culture-driven branding and engagement, they've achieved huge success. Now, again, they have different types of budgets and it's consumer and so forth, but there's so much we can learn from that going into our own business. And buying choices really go beyond a new item or service. It can be about your company, obviously, and your culture and so forth. So, Christina, where can a talent organization start to really better cater to their clients' emotional needs and take more of a values-driven approach to overall customer service?
Well, and to comment on what we were talking about with regard to the candidate experience, I've been doing this for a long time and we are still struggling with the same stuff, right? Candidates just want to know, they want to be treated with respect. They want to know where they are in the process. They just want to be communicated with. And we've got more tools than ever to do it. And we somehow still are struggling to treat that side of the marketplace with the respect, the transparency, and really the speed, right? They're in a most emotional state. They're looking for a job in the middle of a recession. It's really stressful time. And the flip side is, right, the employers are trying to fill those gaps and still deliver on growth goals that, CNBC is touting. It's looking grim, it's bear, it's bull. We don't really know depending on the day. So everything you just alluded to really goes back to trust, right? Working with a values-based company partner that has a culture that truly is values-driven. I'm lucky to work at Medix. I've been at Medix now for 5 months, and being able to tell the true story about the fabric of your company without having to give it marketing spin is a gift that keeps on giving. But I talk to a lot of customers now as I'm, learning the business, and the one differentiator that comes up every time from a candidate and a client is, I trust you. I trust you to help me. I trust that if you make a mistake, you'll make it better. I trust that you will do the right thing. And being able to deliver on that trust, we're seeing these types of companies, it's translating into bottom line result. It is no longer a fluffy thing that I think in past, generations and decades, values-based messaging felt like the thing you put on the About Us page. And now being able, you've probably all seen, Edelman does that sort of trust index. Consumers don't trust companies more than ever before. They are skeptical. They expect you to do what's right in terms of the bottom line, not what's right in terms of how to treat somebody. And it never fails to amaze me how when it comes down to it, the fundamental strategy is be a good person. Treat people with respect, treat them well, and then use all these great tools to be able to execute on that. And, that is a guiding principle at Medix, and it shows, right, in the NPS results and the employee ratings. And each one of those audiences needs to feel that trust in us as a brand.
Yeah. Well, and it helps too, to your point, and I'm going to drop a link in here in the chat. Andrew Lamoris, the founder and CEO of your company, has a book, Purposeful CEO, and a website, and does a lot of talks about that. I know, Joanie, I see your head nodding, and I know a lot of people know him very well. If you can lead with trust and transparency, you have a significant opportunity to make a difference. And you're right, it does come down to trust. When your employees trust you, you trust the processes that have put in place, you trust the training, you're on board across the board with the branding piece and you trust it, it really does show in your interactions and the external facing brand. So I agree, you're in a very fortunate situation. And the more we can all as leaders, and Laura Fuller, thank you for all of your input on our chat today, to lead with trust and transparency, the better. It starts at the top and it goes throughout the organization. And when you can feel it, it really is something very special. So in marketing, sometimes when it comes to branding, it's really hard to measure the success. If a CFO or CEO is saying, what's the hard ROI of me going through and doing a brand refresh, or looking at our messaging, or why should we really go through the entire candidate or client journey? We've gotten this far without doing all of these things. Do we really need to do that? So as marketers and business leaders, we all know that what gets measured gets done. And we have relied heavily on surveys to measure customer success. You mentioned NPS. Obviously, there's Clearly Rated and other great companies, great recruiters and so forth in our industry who are helping with that. And that's fantastic. But we also need the data to assess that what's getting done today. We have the opportunities to see what that's like across the customer journey. So there's a lot of tech solutions, chatbots, social media, SMS, the review sites, digital ads, and so forth. But what I see most often is not a lack of data, but a lack of not knowing how to make sense of the data. And a lot of the industry is unique, but many share common measurement priorities. So, Adam, for the people here today with us in the audience that find themselves in this situation where perhaps they have the data or they don't have the data, but they're struggling to measure specific engagements of why that customer journey is so important, what would you say are some of the foundational customer engagement metrics that every company should be tracking?
I can go on for about 20 minutes, but I'll try to keep it to 2. Billy, you put a comment in earlier that's the perfect segue for this. You know, it's hard to treat a website with 50,000 applicants, and I would offer that it's all one applicant. It only matters for one human who's coming to apply, and whether there's 500,000 or 50,000 or 5 of them, we have to treat the process as each person is an individual in search of fill in the blank, a job, a position, an opportunity, health, etc. So treating each visitor as its own unique human looking for something is the start. Now, the basic metrics obviously are, you want to know where they came from before they found your site. So where they came from, what's feeding your site is hugely important. If you're running digital media, if you're running job boards that are feeding people in, where are they coming from? Second piece is, what are they doing while they're there? A lot of people get caught up in very high bounce rates, but you have to remember, if a job seeker is looking for a specific position, they get there, you don't have it available, they're going to jump. So bounce rates and some of the ways in which people exit your site aren't as critical to me as what they're doing while they're there. And then the third piece, yes, is where did they go to? Did they go to a competitor? Did they go to a media? Did they go to learn something? So the basic process of that journey is critical to understand. And then the last piece, which is incredibly helpful when you have internal discussions about the functionality of your site, is heat map tracking, right? What do they do on a given page? I can't tell you the number of fights we've had over the size of a button, the position of a button, the color of a button, and nothing makes me happier than to sit back down with the team and go, folks, none of that mattered because they never found the button. The mouse never hovered there. They never clicked on it. So really understanding the beginning, the middle, and the end of the journey, and then on a page-specific basis, what they actually did there. Those are the most important things to pay attention to.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate those insights. And as you were speaking, there were some comments also in the chat. And it's interesting because you said, you know, it could be, and Billy mentions this, the biggest, Billy Davis, thank you for your help in the chat too. The biggest hurdle to an incredible candidate experience is the scale at which staffing and recruiting operates. And this has great experience for 5, but what about the 50,000? It becomes a lot more difficult. But to your point, when you can focus in on one, and if it's all, how to make that happen. I don't know if you have a comment to share about that or not.
I mean, I would just add, so the sort of Venn diagram between us being marketing leaders and business leaders is being able to translate all of those metrics too into what does this mean for the business as a whole, right? As a growth lever, and showing that a 1% incremental improvement in this piece of the experience equals X amount onto the bottom line, right? You know, marketing metrics are important. They're what, you know, our teams are looking at. That mosaic though adds up to that entire customer experience, and being able to translate, if we do X, Y, and Z, and this data is showing us A, B, and C, here's how we can better support the go-to-market. Here's how we can drive incremental revenue and profit, more application flow, bigger network. And I think, you know, we were alluding to that earlier of there is no shortage of data. What the challenge is being able to turn the data into actionable takeaways that we believe will drive value to the business. And that's the transition of marketing being marketing and, you know, really becoming that growth lever to the next stage.
Right. And being able to, you may get so many candidates who are coming in through, let's say, your website or paid ads, however they're coming in. But if you can't then track to that next step, for your point, of how many people were actually placed and redeployed, how many went to a competitor, it's that next step. And Adam, you mentioned it too. And that's really, for me, where I see breaking down silos internally. So again, thinking of it as a business. Technology, I think I saw Bill Corwin on here. Technology is your friend. And every element of the business, from HR, they're measuring turnover and what's happening within the company that directly relates to culture, that directly relates to marketing. Coming through the website, if you're not able to track it to placement, you're missing such a big piece of that. So finding a way for all of operations to work really closely to report back that data is really critical. Yeah. Thank you, Christina. You kind of answered the next question, I think, around measuring effectiveness of the brand experience. And we have a couple minutes left here. So Joanie, I'm going to turn to you and ask you when someone should commit to more of that. And this goes back to when you have 5 or 50,000 or 100,000 candidates, and obviously you are more in that larger candidate side. Where does that personalization come into effect? How can you make it feel personal? What do you think is the most consistent way to commit to personal engagement and to focus on being highly consistent there?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging thing to tackle for sure. I think Christina said it best too. When you think about, you want to meet them where they are, and what we have seen through really looking at the different user experience is that you're going to have some people that still want that true personal touch at some point in the process versus others that might just want to have an app and make it, everything on their mobile device. And I think you have to make sure that your solutions are customized to kind of meet the talent, at least kind of where they are, and have some options there. So you're only going to get to that from what we've talked about, right? Of really understanding the personas of both your customers as well as your temporary associates, going through those journeys and understanding where they are, and then creating the right experience and solutions for them. I'll give you an example. Even though we want to lead with digital and have a great digital experience, we know that we might have to think differently about our branch network in the future, still having a place where our temporary associates might want to come and talk to someone face to face, or have an opportunity to have access to, upskill or some training that might give them a certification. It's a balance. And I don't think that it's just, coming up with one solution. I think you do need to have some options in order to really connect with temporary associates.
Right. Thank you all so much. I know we have a final question here to ask. If anyone else has any questions they'd like to drop in the panel, and feel free, panelists, to jot down any answers that you'd like to on our behalf here, digitally speaking. That said, there's a lot of obviously new technology in our space. It's just unbelievable when you look at the ecosystem that Talent Tech Labs had created. That, and if you haven't seen it, I'll try to quickly drop a link in here, but it really outlines for every stage of the candidate journey all of the tools and technologies that are available. And if I think of that 3 to 5 years ago, it looked totally different. Probably 5 years ago, a lot of those companies didn't even exist. Some of you on the call here today are at some of the leading tech companies that we have. So how do we marry marketing and technology here? So I'd like to ask you all for your final question. What is your prediction for the future of MarTech when it comes to customer experience? There are a lot of options. We have a lot of tools and technologies that we try to integrate with to make MarTech work. I'd love to get your thoughts and predictions on the future of that. And Christina, I'm going to go ahead and start with you.
Sure. Joanie kind of mentioned this before, how I feel like we've been having the digital versus human debate for a decade now. And where the future is going is omnichannel, right? Because when you have a problem, you want to talk to a human being. And when you need your bill, you just kind of want to download that at 11 o'clock at night, on your couch. So I think marrying this idea of what is the journey, where do we see people taking the most common paths, and how are we optimizing with intentional thought, right, behind what do they need most right now, to understand, is this a stage where we need to offer digital platforms, or is this a stage where they really do want to engage with a human being and get more of a qualitative emotional experience? And then how do we scale that? We've been talking about the perception of customer experience to, the talent or even to customers. They don't see our org charts. They see one brand, and we need to make them feel as if we are all on the same page. Nobody loves when you get transferred internally to, if you call the cable company and you repeat your account number to 5 different, account representatives. And so I think the overarching themes are, how do we make it easier for them? Just make things easy. How are we easy to do business with? And then again, meeting them where they are and delivering the experience and making those platforms work together so that they enhance. If I'm working with you on an in-person experience, can I pull up a profile to inform me of what have you done in the past? What are your issues? Do you have open tickets? Do you have open opportunities that we can be talking to you about? And vice versa, get somebody off a form and into, a phone conversation, and really be able to surprise and delight.
I love that. Surprise and delight. One of my favorite sayings, Christina. Thank you. Wonderful insights. Adam, you're up next. What are your thoughts on the future of MarTech?
2 things. The first is, I forgot to mention it earlier, and I just want to be sure that people that are involved in the UX process pay a particular amount of attention to device size. You'll discover that your candidate journey is on a smaller screen, your client journey is on a larger screen. Treat behavioral characteristics of the journey appropriately for the screen type. That's the first thing. Technology will make us faster, but it won't make us smarter. Technology will make things easier to find, but we won't be able to see them. So the key is, and Christina, you said it beautifully before, if we continue to treat people with kindness, if we focus on the user experience and use technology to do the heavy lifting, which allows our teammates to be the human face of our company. So AI and ML are going to get us there, but our ability to take that data, help a client find what they want versus what they think they need, to stay transparent to a candidate through the journey so that they understand where they are in the process. The greatest thing you can tell them is they didn't get the job and why. Just keep them in the loop. And then in terms of our internal employees, everything we can do to make their lives faster and more productive and letting them do what they want, which is the interface with humans, the better we'll be.
Well, thank you, Adam. Wonderful insights from you both so far. We have 1 minute left, Joanie. No pressure, but what in 1 minute would you say are the best?
Well, I know Christina and Adam did such a wonderful job. The one thing I would add on, we didn't have as much time to talk about, is I think in the future we are going to see a tremendous amount of true content marketing will really change the way we connect with our customers and our temporary associates. I think our industry has an opportunity to do more of it, more storytelling, more ways to engage. And I think we're going to see really marketing take a lead in the sales process and engagement process for both our customers and our temporary workers.
Well, thank you so much. Christina, Adam, Joanie, thank you for joining me here today. Jacob and the World Staffing Summit team, thank you for hosting this wonderful event. All of you who joined us and your insights here today, thank you. Like we said, feel free to connect with any of us. We're very passionate about the business of marketing and how marketing impacts and influences a business. And we've spent a lot of our career in this space and would love to share more insights with you as needed. So thank you again, everyone. And we look forward to upcoming sessions here yet today.
Thanks all.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.